What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Eclectic Beard Reactions. This go around, we'll be looking at what powers does the Queen of England actually have. That's something I've actually wondered myself, because I know Parliament makes the laws there. My understanding is what she gives the blessings or something like that, or she I don't know. I'm not. I say that, and I'm probably talking ignorantly. So, I figured why not take a look and see, because I have wondered that, because it's the crown. My understanding is largely symbolic. Now I understand that they take do a lot of good as far as humanitarian work or tourism, and I know the humanitarian stuff. A lot of that is on a royal by royal basis at times. So, of course, and again, I could be speaking ignorantly again, and if I am, please overlook my ignorance, because yeah, I could be dumb. That being said, before we go any further, like, subscribe, and notification bell. Join the channel membership for some exclusive perks. Also, yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it.
I'm Simon Whistler, you're watching the Today I Found Our YouTube channel, and in the video today we're looking at what powers the Queen of England actually has. And just before we get started, I do want to say that this video is brought to you by TunnelBear. TunnelBear is a simple privacy app that makes it easy to enjoy a more open internet. It's available for iOS, Android, Windows, and Mac. Start your free trial today at tunnelbear.com/brainfood. So a short while ago, we put out a video about the fact that Queen Elizabeth II neither needs a passport nor a driving license, thanks to a quirk of British law. But what other powers does the Queen of many titles have, and what could she theoretically do if she decided to flex the full might of the authority that she wields? As it turns out, thanks to the royal prerogative, a terrifying amount if she really felt like it, or at least that's assuming Parliament went by the letter of the law and that the people didn't decide to stage a small revolt.
If Parliament went by the letter of the law, now I don't know how y'all's Parliament is compared to our Senate, but our Senate often does not. I say Senate, our Congress often does not go by the letter of the law. Hell, half the time they disregard the law completely. So, yeah.
In reality, the Queen rarely exerts even a fraction of the power that she theoretically wields, as it's kept in check by the only person in the UK who can tell her what to do, and that's herself. This is very much a calculated move on her part in order to stay in the good graces of her subjects. She also voluntarily pays her taxes, even though she's not technically obligated to, and that helps with people's opinion of her.
We've got presidents who won't even release tax returns, and she pays her taxes and doesn't have to. Wow.
Not only does she avoid openly flexing her political might, she also tends to keep her opinions outside of the public sphere. As historian Frank Prohaska notes, the real secret of royal influence is saying nothing. And anything the Queen does say publicly is pretty anodyne. The minute a monarch or many of the royals say anything remotely political or opinionated, they alienate people and they lose some power. This silence played a large part in how the British monarchy survived post-World War I, when other European royal families didn't. In fact, for nearly 2 decades now, the monarchy has regularly had polls run and focus groups put together to keep track of how the general public feels about them and their various actions. They also have on payroll individuals whose job it is to ensure the Queen stays in the public eye, and in a way that is most likely to endear her to her subjects.
Now, we aren't subjects here in the U.S. However, it would have been nice if somebody would have done that the last president. Of course, and again, to do that, they'd have had to take and tell them to stay the fuck off of Twitter.
Similar to politicians who rely on the voting public, with each public change she presents, right down to the carrying of a cell phone or not, carefully calculated in terms of the impact it might have. While this may seem only self-serving, the Queen has a very lengthy track record as an admirable public servant, and is also acutely aware that she is a prominent public face representing her subjects, so is keen on avoiding being viewed in a bad light, lest she in turn paints them in a bad light by her actions. As she noted at the tender age of 21 in a speech to the Commonwealth she gave on her birthday, "I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and the service of our great imperial family, to which we all belong."
And see, that right there, that kind of, you'd never hear that from an American president whatsoever. Of course, and again, I understand, 2 completely different things. One's a monarch, one is elected. However, we're the ones that elect the person that becomes president. So they're definitely public servants, but they normally try to act like they're kings, whether it be through wanting to push policy, uh, writing executive orders, so they can bypass Congress because Congress is like, no, we won't do it. They're like, you know what? Power of the pen. It's just interesting to me the fact that she's got actual stuff that she could do, but she's chosen not to. And we've got the face of our nation is our presidents, and our last couple, yeah, they haven't been that great, like at all. It's just been like, what happened? What happened? Why are we getting this? So, ugh.
Surprisingly, for many years, the full extent of exactly what powers the Queen handed off to the government, but technically retained, weren't publicly known. That is, until 2003, when the government released a partial list of the things it can do on the Queen's behalf. For the most part, the list confirms that the government could do things to save the Queen time, such as issue or revoke passports, which simply wouldn't be a feasible thing to be the sole prerogative of the Crown in a modern society. However, some were actually slightly worried by some of the things she could do, like declare war, which under rules of royal prerogative can be done without consulting Parliament. On top of that, the Queen is totally immune from prosecution.
Our presidents are supposed to take and go to Congress to declare war or do any kind of military action. But with Predator drones, they no longer do that. They just, I'm going to send it here, we're going to bomb these people. No declaration of war, no congressional approval needed. Often they'll find out, they get pissed off.
And is considered above the law in the UK. And further, as a head of state, she also enjoys diplomatic immunity in any foreign country she happens to visit. As such, she could commit any crime conceivable anywhere on Earth, at least as the law currently stands, and suffer no legal consequences for doing so. However, as with everything else, she's generally exceptionally careful to ensure that she doesn't break any laws. Of course, what she does in private is completely her own affair, despite her prominent political position, as she is exempt from freedom of information requests. So, moving on, because technically speaking the people of Britain are not citizens but subjects of the monarch, she could have anyone she wanted arrested and presumably seize their property or land for the crown.
It's funny, we don't have a king or a queen over here, but under the Patriot Act, they could do that too. Just make sure you take and go, oh yeah, they're a threat to national security.
Speaking of which, the Queen owns all of the seabeds around the UK and can commandeer any ship found in British waters for service to the realm. Oddly enough, she also has first dibs on any whales that wash up on shore. The Queen could also administer any manner of punishment to an individual who offended or otherwise displeased her, as the Crown has prerogative power to keep the peace within the realm. And since she's immune from prosecution, nobody could really do anything if this punishment wasn't entirely within the scope of the law. If the government tried to stop her, the Queen could decimate the British political landscape by dissolving Parliament and appointing anyone she felt like as Prime Minister. This is because it's the Queen's duty to appoint the Prime Minister, and she could, in theory, appoint anyone she wanted to the position, regardless of the way the British public voted in an election. On top of that,
that being actual like powers that she could do, that's scary as hell. She's been like, for all intents and purposes, for everything I've seen, like she largely remains just like you said, a public figure. She's been the face of the UK over there. So whoever succeeds her in line, if they decided they wanted to be power hungry, they could really cause some damage. That's a scary thought.
In the event the Queen didn't like the outcome of an election, for instance, if she didn't like the replacement Parliament members that were voted in, she could just call for another one using royal prerogative until she got the Parliament she wanted. Not that she'd need to, because if she really wanted, she'd just bring in the army to keep everyone in line. But how does that work? How does she control the army? Well, that's because the Queen is also the commander-in-chief of the entire British military, with every officer, soldier, sailor, and pilot swearing allegiance to the Crown and nobody else. They're not called Her Majesty's Armed Forces for nothing. Being considered the ultimate authority on all British military matters, the Queen could authorize a nuclear strike on France or make North Korea an ally, as she has the power to declare both war and peace with foreign nations. As for laws, well, technically the Queen can't create new laws, she can only sign them into law after they've been decided upon by Parliament. In fact, her royal assent is required to make the law official after being passed by Parliament in the first place. She could appoint ministers who'd make any laws she wanted a reality and then just sign them into law that way.
So technically, if she wanted to, or whoever becomes, king or queen next, could just tell Parliament to pack sand, appoint ministers who write laws that she tells them to take and write, and then sign off on it. I have to take and do some checking around. Who's told the last couple of presidents? Because they've totally disregarded our Congress, and half the time our Congress is pretty useless anyway. So the president writes whatever law they fucking want. So let's see who's been taking and feeding them this kind of information, so they try to take and do end rounds.
Beyond royal assent, there's also the Queen's consent, which requires she give her consent before any law that affects the interests of the monarchy can even be discussed at all in Parliament. She actually has used this power before, such as in 1999 when she refused to allow the discussion of a bill that would have given Parliament power to authorize military strikes in Iraq instead of needing her authorization. So, well, that's all on the political side, but it doesn't stop here. The Queen technically has a sort of power not only over her subjects' physical beings, but also their souls. Well, how? Well, that's because she's also the head of the Church of England, including having the power to appoint archbishops and power over many other such matters concerning the Church.
Well, see, that's where our presidents have the Queen beat, because over here the presidents think they're God. Or at least that's the way a lot of them act, especially the last one. And a couple more that I can think of. They thought they were God himself. So, yeah.
As for most of these powers that technically allow her to rule with an iron fist, as previously mentioned, the Queen is hesitant to ever use them in such a way that would displease her subjects, and certainly isn't about to disregard their representatives in Parliament. However, these powers still exist for a variety of reasons, including potentially being needed in times of extreme crisis. That said, just because she isn't in the practice of exercising her powers against the will of the people, it doesn't mean she isn't occasionally an active political powerhouse in private. Extremely well respected and known worldwide with the ability to bend the ear of most heads of state, the influence the Queen wields is difficult to quantify, but, as noted in an article discussing why the BBC named the Queen the most powerful woman in the world in their list of 100 most powerful women, Her Majesty's power is more about influence. A discreet nod of the head, a polite word in the ear of a Prime Minister at their weekly meeting, or a strategic patronage of a cause being overlooked by the government is how she can indirectly affect our world without us even knowing.
So that's some pretty powerful, power of suggestion there. Just having the ability to do that, that's pretty powerful, because normally people need it spelled out, or they've got to take it, be begged and pleaded with, and or their wheels greased, so to speak. So the fact that she's got that kind of power, that's pretty freaking cool.
Well, to conclude, the Queen has many powers she could theoretically legally use to her own ends unless her subjects and Parliament simply decided to stage a revolution. However, she generally avoids doing anything overt that might upset her subjects and otherwise simply works in the background, more or less in an advisory role when she feels there is a need. So I really hope you enjoyed that video. Now, if you are interested in protecting your privacy online,
So there we have it. What powers does the Queen of England actually have? So she's actually got a pretty good amount of powers. Like, she could dissolve Parliament. She could do a lot of stuff that she hadn't done. Gotta give her props. I mean, the way she's handled herself, from what I can see, and I'm gonna take a dive more into her life and everything like that. But it seems like she's just been basically in the background, except whenever she's in front of the public, and she's tried to be as graceful as possible, is the way it looks. Which is, honestly, I wish more of our presidents would try to take it, just be, they're the face of the nation. Yeah, I'll stop there because damn politics. That's all I'm gonna say. But it's cool that she doesn't use the powers that she has that could negatively affect the people over there, the people in the UK. That's the fact that she's there as a basically as a smiling face, a waving hand, that are a calming voice, so to speak, um, speaks volumes to the fact that she hasn't let what she could take and possibly do under her powers actually come to fruition for selfish means or otherwise. So definitely major props. That's something that really is cool to see. Um, y'all be good to each other. Love yourselves. Peace.